It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed. Your phone is face down beside you, glowing faintly through the case. You're not panicking. You're not even worried. You're just awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why your brain won't shut off. You assume something is wrong with you. But the real answer is far stranger. You weren't built to sleep in one long, unbroken block. Almost nobody was, for most of human history. For nearly 300,000 years, humans slept in two parts. A first sleep, then a waking period in the dead of night, then a second sleep before dawn. Historian Roger Kirch spent over a decade combing through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe and found hundreds of references to this midnight waking. People didn't call it insomnia. They called it normal. They got up. They tended the fire. They talked. Some prayed. Some had sex. Then they went back to sleep. Your ancestors didn't fear the middle of the night. They used it. So why does it feel like a malfunction now? Why does waking at 2 a.m. feel like your body betraying you? Because you've been told there's only one correct way to sleep. 8 hours, unbroken, lights off, eyes closed until morning. But that expectation is recent. It's industrial. It's artificial light, factory shifts, and clocks that don't care what your body wants. Your biology never got the memo. Strip away electricity, and something fascinating happens. In 1990, psychiatrist Thomas Ware ran an experiment where he placed participants in darkness for 14 hours a day, mimicking ancient winter nights with no artificial light. Within weeks, their sleep split in two. A first sleep of about 4 hours. A quiet waking period of 1 to 3 hours. Then a second sleep. No prompting. No instruction. Just bodies returning to a pattern they seem to already know. That's the part that should stop you. Nobody taught them to do this. Their bodies just remembered. Think about what that midnight waking period might have meant for early humans. No streetlights. No locks on doors. Predators moved at night. A deep, uninterrupted 8-hour sleep would have been a liability, not a luxury. A brain that woke periodically to check the fire, listen for movement, glance at the stars, was a brain that survived. Anthropologists studying the Hadza of Tanzania and the San of the Kalahari, two of the last hunter-gatherer groups with minimal exposure to industrial schedules, have documented exactly this kind of fragmented, watchful sleep. Sleep researcher Jerome Siegel found that even these groups, living without electricity, didn't sleep dramatically longer than industrialized humans. They just slept differently. Lighter, more responsive, more alert to the dark around them. You inherited that alertness. It's still in you. It just has nowhere to go. So picture it. Fire crackling low. Most of the group asleep. 1 or 2 people stirring, not from anxiety, but from instinct. Maybe someone gets up to check the perimeter. Maybe someone else simply lies there, listening, present in the dark in a way modern humans rarely allow themselves to be. That waking period wasn't wasted time. Some historians believe it became a quiet space for storytelling, for dream sharing, for working through the day's stress before slipping back into sleep. A built-in pause. A nightly reset. Now compare that to what happens when you wake at 2 a.m. today. You don't sit in the dark and listen. You panic. You check the time. You do math about how many hours of sleep you have left, and the math itself keeps you awake. Then, almost reflexively, you reach for your phone. The blue light hits your eyes and tells your brain it's daytime. Your pineal gland, which would otherwise be releasing melatonin to ease you back into sleep, gets the signal to stop. You've just told your own body to wake up using a piece of glass in your hand. Here's the twist. The thing that feels like a modern sleep disorder might actually be an ancient default setting, fighting against a modern environment it was never designed for. You're not broken at 2 a.m. You're ancestral. It absolutely can be, and for many people it deserves real medical attention. But occasional middle-of-the-night waking, the kind that happens for no clear reason and resolves on its own, may simply be your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do tens of thousands of years ago. So why did segmented sleep disappear? Largely because of light. Industrialization brought gas lamps, then electric bulbs, then street lighting, and suddenly night stopped being uniformly dark. Roger Kirch traced the shift directly to the spread of artificial lighting across European cities in the 1800s. As nights got brighter, bedtimes got later, and the long, leisurely middle-of-the-night waking period got compressed, then eventually disappeared from cultural memory altogether. By the 20th century, Doctors and writers had stopped describing first and second sleep as separate things. It simply became one block. Anything outside that block got a new name: insomnia. In other words, your ancestors didn't have a sleep disorder. They had darkness, and darkness gave them permission to wake up without judging themselves for it. You don't have that permission anymore. Every clock in your house insists you should be asleep right now. Every wellness app tracks your sleep efficiency like a performance metric. You've turned something ancient and biologically normal into a personal failure. What would it look like to take that pressure off? Some sleep researchers now suggest that lying awake at night doesn't have to be treated as a crisis. Instead of forcing sleep, instead of checking the clock and calculating, you could simply rest in the dark the way your ancestors did. No phone, no light, just quiet. Let your mind drift instead of demanding it perform. Paradoxically, removing the pressure to fall back asleep is often what makes falling back asleep possible. There's something almost moving about this. The fear you feel at 2 a.m., the tightness in your chest, the spiral of "I'll be exhausted tomorrow," is a distinctly modern invention. Your ancestors lying awake by a dying fire 15,000 years ago weren't afraid of being awake. They were just awake. They watched the dark. They waited for dawn. And then, eventually, they slept again. Maybe the goal isn't to eliminate that midnight waking entirely. Maybe it's to stop treating it like an enemy. Because the version of you lying in bed at 2 a.m., frustrated and wide-eyed, isn't malfunctioning. It's running code written long before clocks, before electricity, before the idea that sleep had to look any one particular way. Your ancestors would recognize this moment instantly. They'd probably just get up, sit by the fire for a while, and wait for their body to tell them when to lie back down. It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed. And for the first time,